Bringing intimacy back. What does intimacy mean to you? In a world that feels more connected than ever, many people feel more disconnected than ever. It's time to reconnect. It's time to communicate. It's time to bring intimacy back. Bringing Intimacy Back, hosted by Dr. April Brown, the Doctor of Intimacy, co-hosted by Brittany Garcia and Thomas Lester. Intimacy is more than sex. It's connection. It's communication. It's relationship. Bringing intimacy back, where intimacy is real, creating deeper connections, one conversation at a time.
Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. Welcome, everyone. I'm so happy that we're meeting again today, and I'm so excited about this topic. Yes, of trauma bonds versus true love. And I'd like to welcome again our co-hosts, Brittany and Tommy. How are you guys doing?
Doing great today.
Doing well, thanks.
Yes. I'm excited about this topic because this has been something that I hear a lot about is trauma bond.
Yep.
Yeah. And I meet someone and I'm, going to my own, excuse my French, shed, and I meet someone who may have similar stuff that's going on with me or with them, and we meet. Yeah. And and sometimes there's a connection. And then we start to have issues. So I'm glad we're having this conversation. But before we get started, I know that for all those people that are out there, this is the beginning for many people of the school year. Mm-hmm. School years if you're a parent and you have kids, can be like a lot, and even for our teachers. So we have a great organization called Adopt a Classroom that provides resources for teachers, parents, and students. And so I wanted to put that out there. If you're wanting to donate or if you need resource as a classroom teacher, definitely check that out. Yes. All right, let's get into this topic of trauma bond. Yeah, so when I say the word trauma bond, what does that exactly mean?
Yeah, a trauma bond is a strong emotional attachment that develops within a relationship that's characterized by these repeated cycles of harm, of fear, manipulation, or mistreatment, followed by periods of connection, affection, relief, or even reconciliation. So the important part about a trauma bond is the cycle. It's not simply someone hurt me and therefore I'm trauma bonded. It's the repeated pattern. Right. And that pattern can look something like harm. There's a rupture in the relationship, reconciliation, or the relief. So maybe there's an apology or something along those lines. Then there's the hope that, we're going to get back to where we once were. And then there's harm again. So that can make the attachment increasingly difficult to break. And I think one of the most confusing things about a trauma bond is that the person can simultaneously be the source of your pain and also the person that you desperately want that comfort from. So that's what makes these relationships so psychologically complicated, because you're not just attached to the person. You're attached to the hope. You're attached to the relief, to the connection, and the version of the relationship that exists between those painful moments. And over time, our brains start to chase that good version of that person. So instead of feeling secure, you're constantly wondering which version of them you're going to get that day. And one of my favorite ways to phrase this, I know we've talked about the nervous system a lot, and that's going to be brought up again in this segment, but peace can feel unfamiliar when your nervous system was trained to expect chaos.
Yeah, one of the things I heard in that is you're really attached to that cycle.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think one of the things to understand is with trauma bonds, they feel intense. They're going to. In the relationship, in the emotions, in the cycles, it's going to be full intensity because it's fueled by a sense of survival. And that's why there needs to be a distinction with this concept of what's true love, or I preference it as healthy forms of love. And, true love or healthy forms of love, well, they are going to feel peaceful. They should feel peaceful because it's not built on survival. It's built on safety.
Yeah. And safety, when we talk about safety, it is feeling safe with inside and safety in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And for that to be developed also, because when we say trauma, people think, well, how does this even get developed? How does this even work? And sometimes I see when you're in relationships and you get out of relationships, or when there's been trauma, I see sometimes that our heart isn't completely like a solid heart. It has like holes. Do you guys know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And research has shown that when we've had trauma and our emotional piece, we tend to attract those who have that same emotional bondage of some sort. It may not be the exact same thing, but yeah.
Yeah. I think in this, we're trying to understand the trauma bond, prospect, or defining it, to understand it. I think that is one of the biggest misconceptions when we think about it, especially with our clients when they come in and they want to talk about it, or whether we see it. People tend to think that the trauma bond is simply just like a toxic relationship, or it's like just some super bad romantic affair. But it's so much more complex and specific than that. And I think, without repeating anything, I think Brittany did a very wonderful job in setting up the cycle that people go through. And if we're going to understand how it develops, we have to understand perhaps the cycle and how it's defined and how it's looked at, because that intense emotional pain that's repeated over and over again. I mean, yeah, the nervous system, our brain, it's going to connect all that unpredictability, anxiety, those emotional highs and lows, and it's going to distort how someone is going to attach to feel attracted to, and I think that's why it's so confusing for some people, because of the feeling of in the relationship of being so incredibly powerful in these trauma bonds. But a good distinction needs to be that intensity in a relationship does not and will not always equal intimacy. There is a distinction, and that's very important for people to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And to piggyback off that, I think that here we can even introduce the concept of intermittent reinforcement, because that tends to be very, very present within a relationship that has a trauma bond, because over time, the unpredictability can become incredibly powerful. So in tying in intermittent reinforcement, when those positive experiences are inconsistent or unpredictable, we can become even more attuned and focused on trying to get them back or to earn them back. So instead of the relationship, looking at it as a whole, you might find yourself thinking, they're not always like this, or I know who they truly are underneath all of this. Things were so good in the beginning, et cetera, et cetera. So essentially, someone would be holding on to the moments of connection and hoping that they'll return. And that, I think, also really contributes to making trauma bonds so confusing, because that person, again, can be the source of all of the distress, but also the source of comfort when you are in distress.
Yeah. Think about that. If love has been so misconstrued, you're in that cycle, up is down, down is up. Then when love finally comes, right? How are you going to be able to recognize the counterfeit if you don't know what the authentic is to be? Because both of those create highly emotional attachments, but they are very different kinds of attachments. And I try to help as best I can with my couples and with my clients to see that emotional intimacy, it's built on that safety, that honesty, that consistency, and the trust. So they can also see where if they're in a trauma bonded relationship, well, that is where you're going to find that it's built on uncertainty, the emotional dependency, and the inconsistency. And the distinction of those really do matter.
Mm-hmm. And I know people on the outside may look like, but you're in a trauma bond relationship, it's easy to just get out of it. Yeah, but it's kind of like, I don't know if you guys have ever been where you've eaten food that you know that you're not supposed to eat. It tastes good at the moment. You have a stomach ache or whatever. You say, I'm not going to deal with this anymore, whatever. Then it comes back around and you eat it again because of something else. Someone offered it or you see it. Yeah, same thing. It becomes an addictive pattern.
Yeah, it really does. And I'm going to take a page out of Brittany's book here, and I'm going to bring in our friend, the nervous system now, because when it comes to the nervous system and that cycle that you just talked about, our brains, we have to understand our brains are wired and designed to survive. Right. So when that person that hurts you repeatedly also becomes the same person that is comforting you, well, our nervous system, it starts to associate relief with the person that is creating the pain. Exactly. And this cycle, well, it does what you're just talking about. You know, people say, like, I know this relationship is unhealthy. I know this relationship hurts me, but I can't leave it. I can't get out of it. Or in other words, matter of fact, there's been people I've worked with where the person knows cognitively, like in their head brain, they know, like, this hurts me bad, you know, but emotionally they also will tell you, but I need that person. I don't know what to do without that person. And what you just said, like, this is why telling somebody, just leave, just go, you need to leave him or her, it's not going to work. Right. Because we're completely missing what's happening psychologically with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's like, can you break a trauma bond? That's what you put in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There's hope, but it's not like, it's not an easy thing to do.
No, it takes work. It takes time.
Yes. And commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because kind of like saying, it's kind of also going against this nervous system.
Yeah, there's a lot of retraining that has to happen when it comes to the way our nervous system and our brains adapt and accept certain things. So it does. Exactly. This is where counseling is so important.
Yeah, retraining. Exactly, Tommy. Yeah, we got to retrain the pathways in our mind. Mm-hmm. And I do think it's difficult, especially if you grew up in a situation where there's trauma.
Yeah, big time. Big time. I think as we talk about, like, defining, you know, the trauma bond so it can be understood, and then, you know, understanding the way it's developed, this idea, like, can we break it? Well, I think the way we have to go about it is, I think, also some education. Right. You know, we call it psychoeducation in our field, but it's educating people on the psychological nature of things. And that is, can people identify warning signs? Can people identify any red flags, whether it's to them or are they doing it, and even unknowingly, you know? Because I think once we can identify some of that, then we're able to go into other cultural things that are out there, subpar, or not subpar, but like subtopics of this, which are like toxic chemistry, chaos addiction, the cycle, understanding these things so we can get into a place where, what you just said, can they be broke? Yeah. And we could talk about how to break those cycles too. But I think understanding how to see it is important.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. What are some of the red flags that you guys have seen in the sense of trauma bonds?
Yeah, I think that just in all the clients that I've gone to work with and all the studying and everything that we've done, one of the biggest red flags would have to be inconsistency. And that's tying in the pattern itself, because within that pattern, there's a lot of inconsistencies. Healthy dynamics don't have moments where there's conflict or repeated conflict, and then the rupture, the repair, and then more repeated conflict of the same issue. It's taken into consideration mindfully, and things are done and revisited to see what can sustain the relationship and make it more successful. So inconsistency is definitely one of the biggest ones that I've noticed. So if somebody is incredibly attentive one day and then emotionally unavailable the next, you're constantly trying to figure out where you stand with them. Or if affection just seems to depend on whether you're behaving the way that they want you to. That unpredictability is something to really, really pay attention to. Another red flag could be the intensity that moves faster than actual intimacy. So you meet someone and suddenly it's oh my gosh, I've never felt this way before. We get really, really excited. They're talking about your future with you. You're communicating constantly, and everything just feels incredibly intense. Right. So that's another flag to keep in mind there is that intensity. Is it there to actually build and contribute to the intimacy, or is it taking away from that and focusing on more of, I would even use the word of an obsessive quality to it. So those are two big warning signs that I think somebody could be mindful of when they're entering a relationship or even a friendship.
Right. I'd also say the feeling of I'm in this relationship and my partner makes me feel worse than like at the lowest possible thing. But then there are moments when my partner makes me feel like I'm at the highest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's this like I'm at the lowest, it calls names and all this kind of stuff. But then, I look nice, so I'm doing X, Y, Z, and then I'm feeling great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, another one I was just thinking of. Also don't know if where my partner blames me for their problems.
Yeah.
Or yeah. Like I know that sometimes when people meet in groups, whether it's an addiction or whatever, and they're blaming me for drinking or whatever the case may be, or yes, can also be definitely.
Yeah, there's several red flags, characteristics that we can look at, and I mean, there's plethora. I mean, there's books on this, other podcasts, blog. I mean, you name it, it's out there. But I wanted to try to answer this question, as I knew this question was going to be coming up, and I wanted to be very simple with it on this. So I came up with like 7 really quick characteristics. If someone is in a position where they're trying to answer that question, am I in a trauma bonded, toxic kind of relationship? Am I maybe someone doing it? And if you guys are okay with it, I'll share it real fast.
Yes.
So, please do. Yeah.
I mean, so things like number 1, like walking on eggshells while waiting on the next emotional shift to happen. Number 2, is there repeatedly is there repeated efforts in rationalizing or minimizing the serious mistreatment that's happening to you? 3, feeling intensely attached despite the repeatedly being harmed. Is that happening? 4, being increasingly isolated from people who question the relationship. 5 is, are you losing boundaries, your identity, your values? Is your autonomy being taken from you, or are you willingly losing it, sacrificing it to preserve the relationship? 6, repeated promises of change followed by the cycle that we have been talking about, that harmful cycle. And lastly, are you experiencing reconciliation periods that are vastly intense? This is emotional highs following the downward, the negative on the cycle. And so if you're here, you're listening to this and you're in tune with this podcast because of the nature of it, here's a question. I'm a big question person. Questions help people to look inside, build your insight, your self-awareness. So the question isn't just about how strongly do I feel about this person that I'm with. I think the question needs to be, what is the relationship consistently producing in me? As you might look at those characteristics, whether it's the 7 that were listed, some of the few that Brittany listed, I think looking inside and ask yourself, what is consistently being produced in me, can help you answer the question, like, are you in a trauma bonded relationship? Are you producing it? Is it happening to you? Or maybe you're not, and it's something else bothering the relationship.
I love how you put the question is, what is in the relationship that's producing in me? So, if it's producing me to walk on eggshells, where I'm afraid to say anything, without getting my partner upset, or I'm isolating, not contacting my family or friends and just trying to be by myself, or of course, losing your boundaries. I mean, those were just a few.
Yeah. And again, I mean, the list could go on. We'd be here for hours too, and the list. And I want people to hear too, no matter how many characteristics that we can come up with, it's not that there's a certain number. The question is also in the intensity and the harm that it's bringing to you. Maybe only one of these show up. The question is what is it producing in you? And is it something that you're able to live with, sustain through? Can you find healthy ways? And is your partner willing to understand? Again, emotional intimacy, being known and knowing, feeling safe inside and being with a person that provides that safety. is that happening? If it's not, then it only really takes one to kind of produce this. But I would also say, I would caution too, that you go through this and you got like 5, 6, 7 more. It might be time to have an honest conversation with your partner and maybe seek counseling.
Right, definitely, yes. And so if you're out there and you have a question, please chime in. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how the trauma bonds can be broken. What are some tips? What are some things that you can do to take home to work on if you find yourself in this type of situation? We'll be back in a moment.
Cape Coral Therapist wants you. We are looking for a registered intern in mental health or family and marriage. Are you looking to start your own practice? Are you able to work in the Cape Coral office? Are you willing to work with men, teens, addiction, and relationships? And if you're bilingual, it's a plus. If the answer to all these questions are yes, then send your resume to info@draprilbrown.com or call 239-565-6921 for more information.
Hi, welcome back to the Bringing Intimacy Show, where intimacy is real. Yeah. So people are wondering, well, I may have one, I may have two of these things. What should I do?
With our step towards healing, I mean, healing doesn't happen overnight. For no matter what, if we think about when we're playing outside when we're kids and we fall and we scrape our knee isn't magically better in 24 hours. So when we have the conversation surrounding things around our mental health, it's going to take some time as well. So keeping that at the center of it, I think, sets you up for success, because sometimes we're in a society of immediate gratification, like we've touched upon before. We want that solution immediately. So giving ourselves grace goes way further than we might think. One of the first steps, I feel, though, is having that awareness without shame. I know Tommy touched upon that on a previous podcast, is that once we have the awareness, we have the power of choice. And if we have the power of choice, we want to do so without adding that shame to ourselves. So start noticing your patterns. Get curious about yourself. What kinds of people are you consistently drawn towards? What does chemistry feel like in your body? Are you feeling calm and connected, or anxious and more preoccupied with your thoughts? Are you attracted to the person in front of you or to their potential? I think a second step could even be slowing things down when starting a new relationship, or if you've noticed these within yourself when you're in a relationship. When you've experienced chaotic relationships, intensity can feel like intimacy. So give yourself permission to take your time. Healthy connection does not require you to rush into any type of attachment. It doesn't require you to ignore red flags or to immediately have the kind of like light bulb moment that this is my person, this is who I'm going to marry. The third step is to learn to differentiate anxiety from attraction, because sometimes those butterflies aren't necessarily excitement. It's communicating something else. It might be communicating that there's some uncertainty or some unfamiliarity going on. Sometimes the obsessive thoughts aren't necessarily love. It's your nervous system, like Tommy mentioned, looking for that reassurance. We have to learn essentially how to be able to tolerate what healthy calm is and what that looks like for ourselves. So now I'm curious, because Tommy, I know that when we were chatting about this before, you had some really wonderful points about breaking the cycle if we found ourselves stuck in them. So I'm just curious if you can bring to light some of those unhealthy patterns and unhealthy relationship things that you've noticed within those cycle disruptions.
Yeah. I like how you talked about understanding having a healthy relationship in this process of healing, because healthy love doesn't require a person to surrender themselves in order to maintain a connection. Emotional intimacy actually should be allowing two individuals to remain connected while also still remaining whole individuals at the same time. And so breaking the cycle, I truly do believe it begins with curiosity. I mentioned in a previous, be students of yourself. Curiosity instead of being critical. So instead of asking, why do I keep ending up here, which is very critical of yourself, ask instead, curiously, what about this relationship feels familiar to me? And again, yes, I'm a big proponent of awareness, but in this case, this is where awareness will give us language. Healing then will give us choices. And then repeated healthy experiences, well, they're going to teach us that love doesn't have to feel chaotic, just to feel meaningful. And breaking the cycle, I'll go back to, I think it was in our second podcast or second episode. This is why understanding our relational inheritance matters. Until we understand the relationships that shaped us, we'll often recreate pieces of them without realizing it. And the whole crutch of our entire podcast on emotional intimacy, going back to just episode 1, if you will, this is also why emotional intimacy matters so much. Because healthy intimacy isn't built by keeping someone emotionally activated just enough that they're afraid to lose you, right? It's built by becoming safe enough as a person that they don't have to lose themselves in order to love you. And those are key steps, I believe, in helping to break the cycle.
Yeah, and I think therapy can be incredibly helpful here too, particularly because healing isn't just about intellectually understanding our patterns. Insight does not equate to healing. And that was something that I even had to take a step back and learn to process, is that insight does not equate to healing. It's about helping our nervous system experience consistency and safety enough that it stops feeling unfamiliar to us. So the biggest shift is moving from asking, how do I find a healthier person, to asking, how do I become more attuned to what healthy love actually feels like and trust myself enough to choose it? Because breaking the cycle isn't about blaming yourself, like you said, Tommy, for the relationships that you've been in. It's about learning to recognize the difference between what feels familiar and what is actually good for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so what this kind of, even what you guys are talking about, what it looks like, if you find yourself in this type of situation, it is really good because you can read a lot of articles and you can get all the information. But it's good to maybe, like as we've been taught, go into therapy or go into some kind of where you can look inside and see what happened. Kind of like what you mentioned, Tommy, about understanding how you grew up. Because people don't realize that impacts our subconscious mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah, even if it's the thing that we hated, I hate seeing this. I made me feel unloved, and that's what happens. Yeah, and so when we leave that, but then we go out on our own, many times we'll either repeat the pattern ourselves or end up being attracted to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the good part about talking in therapy is trying to understand ourselves, seeing where our weaknesses are and then putting it into action. And also being, like you said, Brittany, trusting ourselves, because it's not sometimes easy to let go, because sometimes that person may not want to leave. And
Sure.
It is through therapy and understanding that and creating, safety plan, because not every relationship is, it's easy to say goodbye to. So
yeah,
definitely in that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's, I was trying to think about, we always like to end our podcast with giving some kind of like a practical advice or something that we can leave our audience with as a, I don't want to say like a learning tool, but something that kind of builds hope into whatever we're talking about. And I was just thinking, like, you know what? There's one simple question a person can ask themselves with 3 areas to do so within. And so the question shouldn't be like, how much do I love the person? And I said that before. I think a good question that if you're trying to broach into healing and trying to figure this out for yourself is, who am I becoming in this relationship? As you ask that question, you're looking inside of yourself. Look at 3 areas: your safety, your sense of self, and also your freedom to be honest. And the reason why that's important is because healthy love should allow all 3 of those to grow, to flourish. But in a trauma bonded relationship, it's going to gradually require you to sacrifice them just to keep the relationship together. So sometimes breaking this cycle, it starts by looking at the pattern instead of chasing the next promise that this time is going to be different.
Who am I in this relationship? Who am I becoming? A wonderful question.
It is. It's a great question to ask.
Mm-hmm. And if you see it and you're like, I'm becoming someone I don't like. Yeah.
Even someone I don't know anymore, because within a healthy dynamic, we're able to be more authentically ourselves. And that's always the goal. We want to live as authentically as possible. So if the relationship or the experience is really taking you out of living in that authentic space, it's definitely something to take into consideration and to explore a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. And there's, besides counseling, of course, there's resources. 988 is a great number to call. Mm-hmm. Have resources for you if you're in that kind of situation and you don't know what to do. There is help out there.
Yes, there absolutely is.
Yes, for sure. And we're going to, in the podcast notes, also list some other resources out there. So yes, this has been a great topic. And I think we've at least have opened the door for knowledge to come in and for insight and for action.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So Tommy, what's coming up next?
Yeah. So as always, like, subscribe, share, however you're watching us, whether it's LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, please share this information. Other people, I'm sure, would love to know. In the next couple episodes, again, every 2 weeks, we are having live. In the in-between weeks, we are also giving out bits of just insights of how we come together. We talk about things. So on August 27th, the next live episode is Intimacy in the Age of Hookup Culture. Followed by September 10th is Overthinking, Anxiety, and Relational Self-Sabotage. That's going to be an interesting one. Mm-hmm. And just to give you guys a further heads up, in September 24th, that is No More Toxic Love. So we can definitely give some helping advice on that one.
Yes. Yes.
And if you'd love to check out any of our previous episodes, you could always look on all of those platforms, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all of them. And you can catch our previous segments and get up to date on everything we've been discussing so far.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and of course, Twitter. And we will see you guys next time. This has been the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Bringing Intimacy Back, where intimacy is real. To continue the conversation, visit us at bringingintimacyback.com and connect with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, X, YouTube, and your favorite podcast platforms. Looking to deepen your relationships even further? Check out Dr. April Brown's Improving Intimacy book series, now available on Amazon and Kindle, including the newest edition, Open Hearts, Strong Bonds. Be sure to join us again next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another meaningful conversation about relationships, connection, communication, and intimacy. And don't forget to follow, subscribe, share, and leave a review to help us bring intimacy back to even more people. Until next time, keep building deeper connections, one conversation at a time.